And I am live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, and this is MMA Renegade episode 19. Episode 19. How are you guys doing today? If you're watching this on VOD, hi. If you're joining me live today, how you doing? Wonderful morning it is. Man, a lot to get into. A lot to get into. Not necessarily on the fight itself, but just on the state of MMA as a whole right now. So I can't wait to get into that. But thank you guys for watching the stream, watching it on VOD. Appreciate you. Let's first get into a little bit of myself. It has been a busy week with two jobs, also doing interviews with in the pro wrestling world, working 10 hours and writing and everything like that. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you, my schedule has been crazy. Um, and I've barely had time to prepare or prep or do any of the things I would like to do with this channel. For that, I apologize. Um, I knew when I started doing this, especially on my own, it was gonna be a challenge, especially trying to coordinate things and schedule things and plan things out. And when you have two jobs that are, can change on a given day, it's hard to prep and plan for that. Uh, so I apologize. And also just tired. Like if you guys, work a lot, you understand, you know, you get after work, you get mentally exhausted and you have to recover from that and you have to figure out, trying to plan ahead and trying to plan podcasts and stuff like that. It's challenging. It's challenging. But nonetheless, I just want to say that I am sorry. And hopefully this week could be a lot more steady week and we kind of plan things accordingly. There is an actual interesting UFC card this week with Vittori versus Costa, which if everything goes well, that should be an intriguing card to cover and do a prediction show for. Um, Unlike these last couple of events we've done by the UFC, but we'll get into that. But again, I'm here. I know I said I was going to be doing more, tape shows and producing them a little bit and editing them, but I haven't done anything on this channel for a while except for the Randy Brown interview, which I hope you guys enjoyed. So I hope that this is my sorry. This is me. Wanted to just put out content. I wanted to be able to speak to you guys immediately as soon as I can. So let's get into it, right? So last night, Bellator. I'm not even gonna go to the UFC yet. Bellator ran a card called Bellator 268, in which we've seen the continuation of the light heavyweight Grand Prix with Corey Anderson facing off against Ryan Bader and Vadim Nemkov going off defending his title against Julius Enkelex. I hope I'm saying his name right. I apologize if I'm not. For the Bellator light heavyweight title. Both fighters, both main event and co-main event, um, were promoted heavily this whole entire week by MMA outlets, by MMA media, more so than the actual UFC card that was happening opposite of it and happened earlier before it. And it was a interesting card, right? You have Ryan Bader versus Corey Anderson, two ex UFC guys. Ryan Bader, having more of a successful career in Bellator, I would say. Corey Anderson making the jump over to Bellator and you know trying to become a champion for a promotion. Uh, Vadim Nemkov, the protege of uh, Fedor. Julius is the underdog that nobody thought was coming, going to fight Vadim. I believe how this whole came about. I think because of, if I'm mistaken, because of how Anthony Rumble Johnson got sick. I think that's where he slid into to this contest and just how that's changed. I think everybody assumed it would be either Yo Romero or a a uh, a Anthony Rumble Johnson to probably be the ones to get to the finals and fight for the title or whatever, but that's not the case. And yeah, Flyhead, what's up? So what's up? And yeah, it was a very interesting card. It was a very interesting card. So the co-main event. Let's start with the co-main event first. The co-main event saw Corey Anderson beat Ryan Bader by knockout. No, sorry, by TKO, I believe they ruled it. And Ryan Bader, loses again here, and we'll see how he bounces back. He's 38 years old, but he had a great career in Bellator. Corey Anderson is the one where it's like, man, he is on the cusp of changing his whole entire career and legacy by going to Bellator and hopefully, possibly for him, winning a championship. Where Corey Anderson in the UFC seemed to be just a guy that was just on the cusp of being a title contender, on the cusp of possibly fighting the best of the best. But when he fought those guys to get to that spot, he would always lose or come up short. But he also won against some great guys in the UFC. So it's hard to really gauge where Corey Anderson, uh, you know, where his career would have gone if he kept staying in the UFC. Obviously, there's other contenders moving up. You got Jerry Prochaska in the UFC, Alexander Renchik in the UFC, in that top spot. You know, there's a bunch of young and up and coming guys at light heavyweight in the UFC that hadn't tasted the UFC gold yet, hasn't fought anybody in that top five yet, and is working towards their way. But Corey Anderson was a guy that you don't want to call him a gatekeeper, but it was definitely somebody that you had to fight before you get to the title, or somebody that you had to fight to prove that you were the elite in the UFC light heavyweight division. And to see him leave the UFC and now go to Bellator and is seemingly just on top of his game goes to show you just how elite the UFC light heavyweight division is. And just how much of a different in contrast. So I know Scott Coker respectfully says that this will determine who is the best 205er in the world. I disagree. I think the best 205ers are already in the UFC. And this is not even including John Jones. If John Jones decided to stay up at light heavyweight, I just think that when you just look at the success they've had in Bellator compared to coming out of the UFC, and you see Corey Anderson, who seems to be struggling against the top guys in the light heavyweight division in the UFC, now going over to Bellator and is seemingly just running through guys, it goes to show you not how good the Bellator 205 division really is, but if you're comparing the two, I think it shows a bigger story of just how good the light heavyweight division is, even without John Jones being there. Like the same names I mentioned, Jerry Prochaska. You still have Alexander Ranchik. You have Anthony Smith on the come up again. Thiago Santos is still as the champion. John Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira. Again, that light heavyweight division in the UFC is so deep that I think it makes you really look at what Bellator is doing and their claims that they have the best 205 division in the world. I think as of right now, I would disagree. But who knows? We would never know that against the best of the Bellator fought the UFC. But in case of point, look at Corey Anderson's success from Bellator compared to success in the UFC. So that I thought was a very interesting story, underlying story in the whole Bellator fight card, just how different the UFC is. And yeah, I thought he looked good. He slipped the punch. It was able to knock out Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader also 38 years old. And Corey Anderson has power, and I think Corey Anderson is also showing that he's an improved version of himself. And so we'll see what he does against the winner of the main event, Vadim Nemkov, who successfully defended his title via Kimura in the fourth round. Rocky start early on, but Vadim Nemkov, being the champion that he is, was able to push through it and was able to dominate. He was able to take Julius down with ease in the second round and pretty much controlled him there. And then just worked his way in later rounds to get that Kimura and finish Julius. And I think Julius, for him, this is a guy, again, that was not supposed to be in this position. And just by the circumstances, he was able to be in the main event against Vadim Nemkov. Had him hurt a little bit, had dropped him. I know Vadim Nemkov thought he slipped or whatever, but he got dropped. And Julius had a very Rocky Balboa-esque moment in that. Um, Unfortunately, Vadim Nemkov is a champion, and he is just that good. And he was able to show that it's not going to even though he has the punching power and he can strike. He also has the wrestling, and he also has the ground game that could also make it a problem for you, and that makes him a scary man because now you don't have to worry just about the stand up and his defense, but he also has great ground game. He can take you down. Now he's working with wrestlers, um, and he can submit you. So, I thought it was a great performance for Vadim Nemkov. Not only being able to overcome adversity, but also being able to stop his opponent as well. So we're going to see Corey Anderson versus Vadim Nemkov at a later date. I think that should be a very, very interesting light heavyweight fight, and to see who comes out of that. Right now, my money, I would say Vadim Nemkov beats Corey Anderson. I would say that. I think Vadim Nemkov beats Corey Anderson. But that's just right now. It could change as it gets closer to the fight. But I am interested in that card. Other things on Bellator. Brett Primus beats Benson Henderson. I thought for this fight, Brett Primus has something to prove. I think he's been wanting to get back into lightweight title picture. And I think with his performance, he may have earned that next shot. Benson Henderson, I thought he just seemed like he was just a step behind everything Brett Primus was doing. Brett Primus outworked him. You see in spots, I was surprised by this. Brett Primus on the ground and the control that he had, and his ability to get Benson Henderson in positions where he had the Kimura locked and it seemed like he was in trouble for a little bit. Getting his back against the cage and looking for a rear naked choke. There was multiple instances where I didn't think, Benson Henderson, sorry, would be outworked the way he was. And Benson Henderson had that one moment in the third round, beginning, where he seemed like he dropped or stumbled Brett Primus. But other than that, it was the Brett Primus show, and I thought he had put on a great performance, and it'll be interesting to see where Brett Primus goes from here. But it was very, very surprising performance by him, and kind of an underwhelming performance by Benson Henderson. So we'll see where Benson Henderson goes from here. Benson Henderson is, I believe, I'm checking right now. He is. Oh, shout out to his wife. Also, his wife also put on the card. Benson Henderson is 37 years old. Right, 37 years old on a 3-fight losing streak. I don't know if it's time to call it quits yet, but it doesn't seem like we're not. That's not we haven't gotten to Benson Henderson of old, that had that fire, and Benson Henderson had a long career. At 37 years old, he'll be 38 in he'll be 38 in November. So he'll be 38 in November. Maybe it is time to start thinking about hanging it up for Benson Henderson. And there's nothing wrong with that. Benson Henderson has had a great career, but at 38 years old, I don't know what is the why at this point, and if is he still motivated to still fight for a title or want to compete for a title. I would love to hear Benson Henderson, just not now, but like maybe a week or so or a month or so, somebody interview him and ask him, hey, what is the motivation? At 38 years old, you've accomplished great things. You've changed the sport, honestly. You looked at how his tactics have now evolved to the MMA today. We always credit the low calf kicks to Benson Henderson, and how that has been involved in a lot of these wins and losses in the current MMA space. Like, what else does Benson Henderson has to prove, and what is his motivation? That would be my question to Benson Henderson. I would love to hear what he thinks in 2021, going to 2022, whether he still wants to do this, or what is the why. So good performance by him. Yeah, there's a lot of great performances on this card. One person I wanted to shout out was Henry Corrales gets a win by unanimous decision. That was a clear-cut win. I'm trying to find his name here. Lance Gibson Jr. Lance Gibson Jr. beats Raymond Pena by knockout. Great performance for him. Somebody that continues to get better and better, and it's continuing to improve. And you see the Bellator is really looking at this guy as being somebody that's coming up in the lightweight division and as somebody that could be a potential contender, and they're doing a great job building him up. Right now, he's 5-0, and he's slowly but surely building his way to being a contender and being, maybe a Bellator star, for them, So it's interesting to see where he goes from there. Another great performance from him. I thought this card was good. I thought the main event was interesting. The way it came about. Again, Julius was not supposed to be there, but he had a great showing. Corey Anderson went over. Ryan Bader was good. Brett Primus fight. Henry Corrales fight. There's a lot of solid fights on this card. I would give it a solid B. I'll give it a solid B. I thought it was a really, really good card, and a better card than we got on the other channel. So with the UFC is in an interesting place right now where I feel like they're just trying to get to the end of the year. And I think they've fully invested in loading up their pay-per-view cards more so than their fight nights, or at least this month. You have UFC 267, I believe UFC 267 happening on October 30th, which is loaded. It's a loaded card. Matter of fact, I'll even pull it up here. You had Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez, which had a little bit of a story to it. Mackenzie Dern coming back. But I mean, and I interviewed Randy Brown, so I had an interest in that, and I was interested to see how he does, and he's continued to, show that he could possibly be a contender in the welterweight division. But outside of that, it was pretty a nothing card. And UFC 267 has John Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira, Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen, Islam Makhachev, Dan Hooker, Alexander Volkov, Marcin Tybura, The Least versus Khamzat Chimaev, Magomed Ankalaev versus Volkan Ozdemir. Going to the prelims, Amanda Ribas versus Verna Generoba, Ricardo Ramos versus Zubair Tukagov. Hope I'm saying their name right. Like you go down that card, there's a bunch of bangers on that 267 card, which is also going to be free on ESPN Plus. So I'm not even mad at that at all. But and then the UFC 268 a week later than that, Usman versus Covington 2, you're gonna get Kamaru Usman, Kobe Covington, Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Frankie Edgar, Marlon Vera, Alea Quinta, Bobby Green, Shane Burgos, Billy Quarantello, Emmett Shabazian is on the card. There's a bunch of bangers on that card. Why? I don't understand. And I do understand, and I don't understand at the same time. Because the UFC, to me, it seems like they're trying to focus more on their pay-per-view cards. And they're trying to focus more on stacking their pay-per-view cards up. I think we got the confirmation of UFC 269 with Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira and how stacked that card is. The UFC is stacking their pay-per-view cards up to where from the main card to the prelims, you're going to get your money's worth. You're going to get your money's worth of paying that $70, $75, at least in America, $75. And you are going to, watch great action, which will probably get an A rating. I believe. I go back and think about it. A lot of the pay-per-views, for the most part, ever since maybe the Usman and Gilbert Burns fight, have been A's, have been really, really good. And I think when you go back and look at everything after the Usman fight, you would notice that a lot of the cards have been stacked up. Says, I only watched a few minutes of UFC and Bellator last night. None of the matchups really caught my eye, so I watched Squid Games with my girl. Yeah, I mean, that's also a good time too. Squid Games, I heard, is really, really good. and spend time with your girl is also good. But like to your point, Flat, it doesn't seem to me that the UFC. It seemed to me after the Gilbert Burns and Usman fight, I think that maybe they took notice of just how their pay per views and how pay per views may be lackluster, and how people may not want to pay $70+ to watch a UFC card. Um, I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't the pay per view change the price change this year? Like for I think it was Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. I think the price changed from being uh 60 59.99 or something along those lines to being 70. I think that's how it went. I look back on my page history, but like yeah, ever since then, like they've been stacking up their cards a lot. Where you get 2 title fights, 3 title fights on the card. You'll go down the card, you'll see interesting matches at the beginning of the main card. Like they've been stacking their cards up a lot. I want to pinpoint ever since the Usman versus Gilbert Burns fight, and I think what we are seeing now is the residual effects where you're gonna get fight nights like these where it seems like they're just throwing content, which can sometimes not be a bad thing, but you lose kind of that reason why to tune in for a fight night. You know what I'm saying? Like there wasn't an urge for me to watch Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez. Even though I respect both fighters and I respect everybody on that card, it's just the way they put that card together. And I don't think anybody would. I think you'll be hard pressed to find anybody that would want to. Yeah, I think I think with the Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fight, I think the pay per view did increase. Yeah. So, I remember it was a little bit different last year. I remember having that discussion with Elijah when we were doing the show. It's like for the Gilbert Burns and Usman fight, I like that main event, but like that other half of it does not interest me. Um, I think I gave that card a low rating for that, but yeah, I like. It's gonna be interesting to see how the UFC moves forward. If they're gonna go do this way of stacking their pay per views up to make the price worth it, which I'm not mad at. But I do wish that we have a little bit of sauce for the fight nights. Now we're gonna have Costa versus my why am I blanking on his name? He just lost to Israel Adesanya this year. Costa versus Marvin Vettori. You're gonna have Max Holloway versus what's his name? Yair Rodriguez after UFC 268, I believe. So there are some interesting fight night cards and that are noteworthy and going to be a lot to talk about. But it seems to me that we're moving towards maybe having less of a I need to tune in to watch these fight night cards and more of a stacked review, which I'm not mad at. I think that could be good, and it makes the value of $70 plus worth it. But you get nights like last night where I don't think nobody really cared to see Lad versus Dumont. I know before that it was Home versus Dumont. But even in that, I don't think anybody really was tuning in or wanted to see that or cared. And then Marina Rodriguez versus Mackenzie Dern was another one where it's like respectfully, both fighters are great, but the way that card was put together, there's not. You never felt like they were main events or have ascended to being main event level. And there still is levels to this, and there still is levels to being a main eventer. And part of that is promotion. Part of that is just visibility and I don't think the UFC even really promoted these 2 cards. Really, they're promoting the heck out of Vettori versus Costa, doing a more better job than they're doing for these last 2 ones. But yeah, they've it's been lackluster. It's been lackluster, honestly, and it's been hard to even talk about it. I didn't want to come here and talk about it really, but I think the overall bigger picture in this whole entire thing is just this is something to keep an eye on. Right, we're gonna have these may just be just the standalones with these 2 back-to-back cards, but it's something to keep your eye on and something to look at probably next year when we're gonna look at a whole slate of the year, and we're gonna look at how well they've done, and maybe you're gonna see more fight nights that like these where it's not as stacked, it's not as interesting or intriguing compared to what the pay-per-view is gonna be. And that may be a good thing because it makes you want to buy pay-per-views more. It also may be a bad thing because the fight nights you used to look forward to every Saturday night may not be of the same quality, or may not be of the same intrigue that you're used to. I remember back when we used to have title fights on fight nights, and that went away. And now we see three title fights on pay-per-view. So yeah, it's something to keep your eye on. It's something to keep your eye on for sure. And yeah, I had no interest in, and respectfully to all fighters on this card. Um, Andre Arlovski won by unanimous decision. Jim Miller wins again. Um, Norma Dermott beat Aspen Ladd. Yeah, it's just nothing on this card that I know there are some great fighters on this card. But on a Saturday night Saturday during the day where you got college football on, you have everything's opening back up, especially in New York and everything like that, where you could go outside and do activities and stuff like that. You like There's so much content on just on streaming services and stuff like that. You have Halloween that came out that this week. You have DC Fandom, which is feel like a cultural event where everybody's watching to see the next content coming out. Um, there's just so much content that putting on fight nights like these, especially during the day, not promoted, not really cared about, it's gonna get lost in the sauce. And I think it did. And I think Bellator 268 really stepped up, and I think they put on a good event. And at least they had intrigue, and we're gonna see where they're gonna go through next. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts on that. Speaking quickly on the matchups, Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. It's an interesting fight. I would have thought that they would have gone with Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz early on, but then once I saw Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje, then it started leaning more towards possibly doing Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier, which is a great fight. If you ask me right now, I think I lean more towards Dustin Poirier, just because I think Dustin Poirier hands are a lot better. I think his striking is a lot better. I think while Charles Oliveira may have the edge on the ground, I think Dustin Poirier can handle himself on the ground as well. And out of the Michael Chandler fight, I don't know if a calculated but also strong hand Dustin Poirier, I don't know if Charles Oliveira can deal with that. I'm gonna be honest with you, and also the ground game as well, where you have to take down or get Dustin Poirier to the ground, and that's hard to do. The only person that really dominated Dustin Poirier like that was a Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Khabib Nurmagomedov is a different breed. I think Charles Oliveira is going to have his hands full, but Dustin Poirier also he's one where Charles Oliveira could very well surprise everybody and beat Dustin Poirier, but as of right now, my early prediction right now, I have Dustin Poirier stopping Charles Oliveira. I don't see that fight going the distance. This is early prediction. I gotta think about it more and look through the archives of fights, stuff like that. But right now, my early thoughts is I think Dustin Poirier beats Charles Oliveira, and then possibly after that, if it lines up, you get Dustin Poirier versus the winner of Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler, and then maybe the winner of that fights, Conor McGregor. I think ultimately I think this all leads back to Conor McGregor. Somehow, some way, I think it does. I like if Dustin Poirier can win against Charles Oliveira, and if Conor McGregor can come back, let's say by August, Dustin Poirier could probably fight one more time. Depending on that, if Dustin Poirier was to beat Charles Oliveira or Michael Chandler, then I could see Dustin Poirier fighting again in the summer against Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor in the trilogy, and the not trilogy fight. It'll be the fourth fight. The fourth fight, and there's a story behind that with the injury and what could have been. Uh, He says, I'm a Oliveira fan. That's when I prevail. I think there's a lot. Just again, early thinking. I think there's a lot to worry about with Charles Oliveira. I think if you looked at that Michael Chandler fight and you've seen how he was getting dealt on stand up with Michael Chandler before Michael Chandler decided to just overextend himself and leave himself open. Go back and watch that fight. I think I would be very, very concerned. And also, keep in mind, as Charles Oliveira has evolved, Charles Oliveira has gotten better at striking. But he he's gotten better, but the question would be, is he as good as Dustin Poirier now? Right? Charles Oliveira is continuing to getting better. Fight after fight, you could see it. But Dustin Poirier has been this. He has been this for a very long time, and at this point, he's just improving his skills and just tweaking and just making adjustments, stuff like that, and has game plans for things. Look at the Dan Hooker fight. Look at just what he did. Look at the Conor McGregor, the 2 fights, and just look at how he's just evolved as a striker. I don't know if Charles Oliveira can handle that. I don't. As he's getting better, Dustin Poirier is already here. Dustin Poirier is already there. So that would be my biggest concern with Charles Oliveira. Is just I think the striking ability is just too much for Charles Oliveira to handle. That's just again my early prediction for that. Yeah, there's some other fights. Last time I was here, the Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane fight was announced. Well, that's interesting because I didn't know that Francis Ngannou got a bump in pay. That was the big thing, and it'll be interesting to see what the numbers for Francis Ngannou is if that changed. From what I'm seeing as well, Francis Ngannou also seems frustrated with the UFC and kind of feels devalued by the UFC. So it's interesting to see how that relationship with the UFC is going to go going to 2022. With Cyril Gane being the guy that right now I would think will be the favorite to beat Francis Ngannou just because of his skills, how his defense. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a very interesting fight for Francis. And if Francis loses that fight, I think we're gonna really see that relationship between the UFC and Francis kind of implode, right? Because I think right now, with Francis being the champion, I think there is a little bit of a respect there between the UFC and Francis Ngannou. I think if Francis Ngannou was to lose that championship, I think they would treat him just how they're treating Stipe, or just like they treated what's another one, like a Tyron Woodley, right? Where it was like, yeah, you were champion, and yeah, you did some great things, but you weren't playing ball with us, and you weren't necessarily willing to just take what we give you. So now we're gonna make it difficult for you. Now we're gonna make it difficult for you to fight for a title again. Now we're gonna make it difficult. Now we're going to slander your name a little bit and devalue you. So there's a bunch of things allegedly, but there's a bunch of things that um it'd be interesting to see how that relationship kind of goes in 2022 with that fight and just where the Francis Ngannou relationship and Dana White relationship will go. Because I think at one point Francis Ngannou was the guy, and I think they were looking at him as the next heavyweight star for the UFC that they've been craving. And it's just so interesting to see how that just money and just wanting a little bit of the bread kind of caused this I would think going towards the turmoil. So we'll see. But yes, that is the MMA Renegades episode today. Thank you guys. Hope I will definitely be back to cover Costa versus Vittori next week. That will most likely be a tape show where I will edit and put in footage and stuff like that and give more of a breakdown for it. Which we'll look to probably put that out not Sunday, but probably on a Tuesday. Just because it takes about 24 hours for this video to be able to download stuff like that. So that's the process of it. And I'll try to put out a prediction episode this week as well, just to have that as well. So yeah, it was good to be back with you guys. Good to be back to be able to talk to you guys. Again, I'm sorry for the wait. I'm sorry for the hold up. I'm sorry for not being able to produce content like I would like to. But also keep in mind as well, like I am working a ton, and I'm doing something like Elijah's doing, being working in his medical field. I am in a field where I write for a living now, and I cover wrestling, and that's a whole different other realm. Which you know what I may even drop a wrestling related interview on this channel, and I hope you guys enjoy it because this is a passion project of mine and something where I have always dreamed about doing since I was a kid, and now being able to do it is surreal to me. So I hope you guys continue to support me. Thank you to everybody that subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Please share. Please like. I would definitely appreciate it. Um, and yeah, I'll continue to work hard for you guys and continue to uh, you know do interviews and continue to cover the sport and continue to do recap shows and continue to do all these things. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some preparation. It's going to take some just coordinating. But we'll get this done. So I thank you guys. As always, I appreciate you. Till next time, my name is Tyriece Simon. This has been MMA Renegade.